Hello everyone and welcome to the Skillshare session on LAMP Words for Life. My name is Jennifer and I am a paediatric speech and language therapist and I'm based in Staffordshire. At the moment I'm working with children in a special educational needs setting, predominantly with a diagnosis of autistic spectrum disorder, but LAMP can be used for individuals with many different difficulties and disorders and diagnoses. This session has been designed for parents and carers of individuals who have been recommended the LAMP application by a speech and language therapist, as well as for school staff and other professionals who are supporting communication development. So before we begin, I just wanted to note that the information shared within this session has been gathered and adapted from a range of reputable sources, including LAMP by Liberator, the NHS website, and a variety of different educational videos and online resources. So let's get started, and I really hope that you enjoy this session. Before we get started, I just think that it's important for us to quickly go through what we'll be covering in this session so it's a little bit more meaningful for you. So by the end of this session, I would hope that you would have a clear understanding of what AAC is if you already don't have that, why it's important to support communication, and then we'll look at what LAMP is and how it works as an approach to support individuals with their communication. We'll also spend some time focusing on your role as a communication partner and how you can use LAMP effectively in everyday situations. And finally, there'll be a little knowledge check that you're not obliged to do, but it might just help you reflect on what you've learned and feel more confident moving forward. So first of all, let's just revisit what AAC is. A lot of you might already be quite familiar with it if you're in schools or if you're supporting in residential homes, but we're just going to go over it to make sure that we're all understanding. So AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, and it includes any way of communicating that supports spoken language or offers another way to communicate. So, it's alongside speech. So this diagram here shows quite nicely that these are all different types of AAC. So texting's AAC, gestures, facial expressions, emojis, even like an email is AAC. So it's a really broad communication support area. And AAC can look very different from person to person, and it really varies in how complex AAC is used and how complex it is for that individual. A speech and language therapist will assess and recommend the most appropriate system or level for each individual. And it's really important to remember that communication is a shared responsibility. So everyone who supports the individual, whether we're at home, whether we're in respite, whether we're in school, should be using the AAC system and model how to use it as part of everyday interactions all the time. So yes, learning AAC takes some time, and for some people, they might think it happens quickly. For others, it can be quite a long process. It can sometimes take months, years. I've worked with people who have started on AAC, and even 5 years on, we're still in our basic sort of competencies of using it, which is absolutely brilliant. But again, it's that patience and it's that consistency. So the key is, as I've said, consistency, patience, and creating lots of opportunities to communicate. Okay, so we're just going to have a look now on what actually is LAMP. So first of all, the symbol in the top right corner, that is your LAMP application symbol. There are lots of different AAC symbols that you've probably seen around, like TD Snap and Smartbox Grid, but this one is LAMP. So on your iPad, have a little nosy and become a bit familiar with it. So LAMP stands for Language Acquisition Through Motor Planning, and it was originally developed by John and Cindy Halloran, who have experience working with autistic individuals. I'm pretty sure that I think John might have been a speech and language therapist, and I think Cindy was a psychologist. So, it's thoroughly been researched and developed. And in simple terms, LAMP is about learning language through consistent movement patterns or consistent motor patterns. So if you're not familiar with the word motor patterns, they are movement patterns, okay? So the idea is based on how we speak and how we learn to speak naturally, as children, as from babies. So we learn motor patterns from babies about where to put our mouth, where to put our tongue, whether our voice is on, whether our voice is off, and then we form words. So, for example, if I'm saying the word lamp, there is no system that I'm actively thinking of to say that word. It's a very automatic system of motor patterns. And over time, like as when we grow up, these patterns become very automatic, and lamp applies the same principle to AAC. So each word on the lamp is linked to a consistent motor pattern alongside with consistent auditory feedback. So they're doing the exact same movements for that word and they're hearing the exact same thing. And with this repetition and practice, it helps the user to build their confidence and develop more automatic communication. And again, that really supports their autonomy as well, which is fantastic. So a big thing that I get asked quite a lot, and it's actually a really good question, is about prerequisites. So, can a child be using an AAC device if this, and actually there are no cognitive prerequisites for using LAMP. It can be introduced at a very early sort of cause and effect level and then built on step by step as communication develops. And the key to LAMP is consistency, modelling, giving the individual plenty of opportunities to use their system in meaningful everyday situations, so communication is really functional. Okay, let's have a look at our next slide now. So we're going to have a little look at why has your speech and language therapist advised LAMP, and it might be that it's myself that's advised LAMP. So we're just going to have a little look because there are so many different AAC apps that you've probably heard of. There's ProLoquo, there's TD Snap, there's SmartBox Grid, there's Touch Chat, there's so many. So why LAMP? And your speech and language therapist or myself will have carried out an assessment. So not a formal assessment, more of a observation-led, perhaps some direct work to understand the individual's communication needs and to be able to recommend the most suitable AAC system. And like I said, there's lots of different types of AAC and the approach is always tailored to that specific person. So LAMP has been chosen for the individual that we're speaking about or we're thinking about in this presentation because it offers a consistent and stable layout, and this means that words stay in the same place, which helps the user build familiarity, confidence and independence. It's also important to know that LAMP is designed to support language development, so not just requesting. So I'm very, very supportive with people using their AIC constantly. We're not just going to get it out at lunchtime to ask for a snack. That becomes a very requesting based, and when we want to, for it to be supporting language development as a whole. And LAMP vocabulary has features that supports development alongside things like daily activities and daily living, which is really important. So each word, like we said, is linked to a consistent movement and consistent auditory feedback pattern or motor pattern. And with practice, this helps the user become more automatic and fluent in how they communicate. So the LAMP also uses both symbols and written words, which not only supports their communication, but also the development of their early literacy skills, which is really important. So it's quite a thorough process in deciding what system is right for the individual, and they can be trialed and they can be changed, and that's important to that we understand that it might not be right. We might be advised it, we might use it for a couple of years, and actually we might then want to try something else, and that's okay. It's not a be all and end all. That is okay. So like you can see on the screen, actually, this boy has like a screen guard on his screen. So it just helps that when he's pointing to those different symbols, his finger's going to stay within that little section so we're not slipping. So if maybe we've got a little bit of a shaky hand or a little bit of weak motor movements, fine gross motor movements, then it helps support that. So and the LAMP as well, because it's very linked to your motor patterns, it will have been observed that the individual that's been advised really benefits from those strategic motor patterns. Modelling without expectation, and this is something that if you've spoke to me or my team or anyone at school or any other speech and language therapist, is absolutely massive within AAC, and it can can be known as aided language stimulation. So if you haven't heard of it, it's modelling without expectation. It's also known as aided language stimulation. And yeah, it's one of the most important ways that we support AAC users to develop their communication. So the key idea is that we are showing and we are not testing. So we use the AAC system alongside our speech to demonstrate how it can be used in real situations. Okay, so what I mean by this is that we're using our AAC all the time and we're modelling it to the child, but I'm not expecting, if I was working with a child called Harry, I'm not expecting Harry to suddenly be able to start tapping and saying that he wants this, he wants that, because I'm modelling it with no expectation. He needs to see me use it first and build up his understanding of the device before he can use it. He might explore through it and tap lots of different symbols. Absolutely perfect. That's really good, and we should really be supporting that. But yeah, so we're not testing as well. So we're not just going to make it a thing of like, show me, you need to tell me, you need to use your words, you need to show it on here. That's really not what we should be doing, and not really very neurodivergent. We should be gently supporting. So if we've made a choice of, we've chosen rice cakes over something else, then we would model, oh, you want rice cakes? And we would, as the adult, the communication partner, would model that on the AAC device, okay? So we're not using it to test. And yeah, so there's no expectations for the individual to copy, respond, or use the device straight away. And I really want you to think about that, in the sense of, even if the child doesn't look at it, they are still listening, they're still present. So there can be, when you introduce an AAC device, there can be, if a child doesn't look at it, I think it's quite quick for an adult to feel like it's not working, and actually they might be listening, they might not just be looking, and that's okay, and we need to just continue with it and support as much as we can. So just like with spoken language, people need lots of exposure before they begin to use it independently, and we should model during everyday interactions. So comment on what's happening, label things, or share experiences rather than just asking questions and focusing on requests, which I think a lot of people are guilty of. And that's okay. We're rethinking that now, and we're reflecting on it. Okay, so it's important to keep the language really simple on the device, and often we model just one or two keywords, even if we're saying a full sentence out loud. And I would really advise as well, so if our child is able to perhaps point to, select food on the device, absolutely amazing. We're not then going to go back and be like, I want food. They've made that request, and we're not going to then go back and pressure that they create this lovely sentence that is beautiful because they've made their wants and needs known really effectively. Okay, so we would just model, you want food, and press the food again to reinforce that. Okay, so over time, with consistent modelling and plenty of opportunities, the individual will begin to understand how the system works and may start to use it themselves. But please remember that everyone around the individual plays a role in this. Modelling little and often throughout the day makes a huge difference. It should be used all the time, but if we're just using it in so many different environments, which we should be, then it really helps them to understand the use of the device and use it themselves. And I always like to say as well that me as an individual, I leave my words where my mouth is, and my mouth comes absolutely everywhere with me because I can't take it off. And so we need to do that with our children. Their AAC is their words, and we should be leaving it where their mouth is, so it should be with them all the time.
Your adventure to build communication with AAC, modelling is a valuable strategy. Modelling means you point to words on the AAC tool as you speak. Ready, set,
Go.
go! Look, I like this book. Ah, look, we go to places, more outdoor places. Beach.
We go to beach.
We went to the beach. You cannot simply place an AAC tool in front of someone and expect that they will know how to use it to communicate. We need to model. AAC learners need to see AAC in use to communicate real messages in real situations. So, point to words on the AAC. When you first start, it can be difficult and feel clumsy. Everyone feels that way at first. Start small and build up your modelling. Focus on a few words to model at first. Every time you model, it will get easier. The most important thing is to start, give it a go. Get others involved. Who else in the team can model? Get friends, family members, classmates, and siblings modeling. The more the merrier. Now, you can model on your iPad or device, or even on a paper-based version. Model throughout the day, especially during real, meaningful, and motivating activities. Model in conversations. Show how you can use different words to communicate different messages. You do not have to model every word that you say. And sometimes the grammar might be wrong. All these things are okay. Modeling does not need to be perfect. You will make mistakes. Every time the learner sees you model, it builds their knowledge. Your modeling will help them to learn how they can use words to communicate. Make it fun and enjoy the adventure.
So before we have a little look at more specific things related to LAMP, I just wanted to touch on some general tips that I would always give to someone working with someone who uses an AAC device. So use it all the time, not just at communication time. So not just when, we're doing a lesson or an activity where we need to communicate, not just when we are going to get food, all the time. And it's always useful to have the iPad on a strap so that it can be carried around. And with this leads me on to take it everywhere: home, school, community, even the bathroom. So even in the bathroom, we might need to communicate to someone that we're a bit sore or that we've wet ourselves, and we need to be able to have a method to do that. And make sure it is always available and charged. So I usually advise to charge overnight. So I'd have it in the child's room, and I would support them in knowing that it's there, but I would be charging it overnight, so that if they get up in the night and they need to communicate something, they know where it is and they can use it, and it just gives it that availability then that the next day is ready. Sometimes I would advise as well, maybe a little charger pack with it. Sometimes you can get cases that have charger packs with it. It's always a situation where just see how you get on. Often new devices have quite good battery. Model, model, and model. So use the device alongside your speech and use it yourself. Don't test or quiz, show how rather than expecting. So I think a big one with that is a lot of parents, and it's very understandable, will purchase a device and implement it, and maybe 2 years down the line might say, but they're not using it. That's okay. We might still be in our aid language stimulation stage of learning it. Follow the individual's interests to keep it meaningful. So applications are usually personalised. LAMP also allows for personalisation. So if there's any specific food that they like, add it in. Take away anything that they don't like. And obviously when they get older as well, things like your words around swearing and things like that, and alcohol would be added in, as obviously they are very typical language for someone as they get older. So keep words in the same place, and this is really important for LAMP. Avoid changing any layouts, because again it follows that mode to position. Sometimes we can make errors. If you make an error, just drop it in with me and we can have a look. Go slow and give time for processing and responses. Okay, so we're not rushing. If we've just spoken about a frog jumping and then a minute later I'm then modelling it and the frog's already jumped, that's still okay. We can still communicate that, because that child or that individual might still be processing that. Celebrate all communication, not just device use. So even though they've got a high-tech device, we still use, under a total communication approach, gestures, Macathon, paper-based, objects of reference. So everything should still be used to support. Use it use it for more than requests: commenting, joking, protesting, sharing. Model core words frequently. You go, stop, more, help, like. Keep it visual and value it in all environments, and that's a really big one. So we need to value it so that the child values it, okay, and everyone uses it. So consistency around home, school, and the team is really key, so everyone's on the same board, okay. So make sure that we're all using it.
The guided access feature for iPad gives you control over how your learners access the device, meaning you can lock them into a certain app and even disable parts of the screen so they can't accidentally leave and go somewhere else. To enable guided access, we're going to jump into the Settings app and then scroll down until we find Accessibility. Here at the bottom of this page, under the General section, you're going to tap onto Guided Access. It's a very simple toggle at the top to enable guided access. But before we leave this screen, I'm going to go onto passcode settings and just make sure I've chosen a passcode that I can remember. I'll go 1234 for now, but I'm guessing you might want something a little bit better than that. At this stage, we can open any app on our device, and we can enable guided access simply by pressing the home button or the lock button 3 times quickly. When you do that, your screen will change to look like this, and now we can fine-tune how guided access works. If you want to just restrict users to this particular app, you can simply press Start in the top corner, and that's it done. You can't press the home button, you can't leave. You're in that app until you choose to end guided access. But on this screen, before you press Start, you can also drag a box around parts of the screen that you want to disable, maybe the address bar in Safari, or for me, on Shobi, the assignment list on the left-hand side. Then, when I press Start, I can use the rest of the app as normal, but I can't leave the app and I can't interact with that sidebar. When I want to end guided access later on, all I'm going to do is tap that lock button or the home button 3 times again, put in my passcode, and then I can press end on this screen. That will return the iPad to normal operating mode, meaning you can jump between different apps and interact with everything you like.
Congratulations on purchasing the LAMP Words for Life app. Before your AAC learner begins communicating with the app, there are a few things you will need to do to get started. In this video, you will learn about selecting the language or languages you will use in LAMP Words for Life, selecting the accompanying voice to go with the language, copying a vocabulary file to customize, personalizing the vocabulary file by editing a button, how to update your app, and how to back up your customized vocabulary file. You will also learn about online resources available to support you with your app. When you first launch the LAMP Words for Life app, you will need to select the language or languages that your AAC user will be using. Some languages have different dialects for you to choose from. You will also select a voice to be used with each language. When choosing a voice, you can preview what the voices sound like by selecting the speaker icon. To download a voice, you will need to be connected to Wi-Fi and select the download icon. Select Continue. You can choose to set up automatic backups to a cloud-based account at this time or skip this and set it up later. You can watch a video introduction to LAMP Words for Life if connected to Wi-Fi, or come back to watch it at another time. The vocabulary file list will only show the selected languages, with the vocabulary file available in that language visible when you expand the folder. You can add other languages to your list by going to Menu, then Language and Region. Select the plus sign and choose the language you want to add. Then select Done. That language will be added alphabetically to your vocabulary file list. Next, you will need to select the vocabulary file that you want to use. You will need to make a copy of that vocabulary file before we can start editing it. Once you select the vocabulary file, you'll be given the option to open or customize it. Select Customize. Give the file a name and include the description of the file. Then select Save. Your copied vocabulary file is now ready. Next, you will want to explore the vocabulary file and find where some of your AAC learners' favorite words are. All of the vocabulary files come with lots of pre-programmed words, but there will be places to add in personalized vocabulary. Work with your team on determining what words are needed and where they should be programmed. Use the Making It Personal planner to brainstorm some words you may want to add. Things like their personal information, people in their life, things they enjoy doing or playing with, favorite foods and drinks, places that they go to, medical information, pets or favorite animals, or any other favorite things, places, people, or sayings. Having these words available can help motivate your AAC learner to be engaged in communicating about things that are important in their life or that they enjoy. Let's see how you can edit a button to start adding these into your vocabulary file. You can add the AAC user's name by going to My, and there is a button for My Name Is. Tap on Menu, then Edit Page. The red ribbon across the top lets you know that you are in edit mode. Select the button you want to edit. Then edit this button. The button label is what you will see on the button. The button message is what the button will say when pressed. Place the cursor in the text box and complete the sentence by adding the AAC user's name. You can adjust the pronunciation of the words on the button under alternate pronunciation. You can use the suggested image that is predicted by the button label, or tapping on Select Image allows you to choose a symbol from the symbol library. You can search the symbol library by tapping on the magnifying glass in the upper right corner of the Edit menu. Scroll through the list and choose the symbol you like. Import Image will allow you to select a picture from the photo library. Use Camera allows you to take a picture with the iPad camera. Select Save. You can continue editing buttons on this page. When finished, tap on Done.
My name is Joan.
Keeping your LAMP Words for Life app up to date will ensure optimal performance and add new features and settings when they are released. PRC Saltillo announces new updates on the website blog, in email newsletters, and on social media platforms. To check on what version you are running, go to Vocab, then choose New Vocab. At the bottom of your screen, you will see the version of your LAMP Words for Life app. To update the app, you will need to go to the App Store on your iPad. Exit LAMP Words for Life app. Make sure you're connected to the Wi-Fi in order to connect to the App Store. Go to the person icon in the upper right corner to access your account. Apps that have available updates will be listed here, and tapping on Update will begin updating the app. Exit the App Store. Once the update is complete, go back into your LAMP Words for Life app. When you have finished customizing the vocabulary file in your LAMP Words for Life app, you will want to make sure you have saved a copy somewhere. There are many ways to back up your custom vocabulary files and transfer them to your preferred storage space. Refer to the Backup and Transfer Quick Reference Guide for more information about each of these options. To back up your vocabulary file, go to Vocab, then choose New Vocab. Select Menu, then Import/Export Vocab. You can choose to export to iTunes, use Dropbox, or to export and share. Here are the steps to export and share. Scroll to find your customized vocabulary file. Review or change the file name, then select Done. Next, scroll through the options and select where you want the file to be shared to. By selecting Email, you will be prompted to enter an email address to send it to, and LAMP Words for Life will attach a copy of the vocabulary file to the email. When the email is received, save the attached backup on your desktop, another iPad, or a USB drive. Thank you for choosing LAMP Words for Life and letting PRC Saltillo be part of your AAC team. Let's take a look at the Settings menu in the LAMP Words for Life app. There are many ways to customize and personalize your LAMP Words for Life app to best fit your AAC learners' needs. You will find timestamps for each of the settings in the description under the YouTube video. Click on those to move ahead to the settings you were looking for. Start by going to Menu, then Settings. We will go through each of the subheadings in the menu settings and discuss what they do and how you could use them with your AAC learner. Profiles provide a snapshot of the current settings. Save Profile will take the current voice and settings and save it with the current vocabulary file. You can have multiple users on one device for evaluations and save their voice and access settings with a profile. After the profile is saved, you would use Load Profile to go between the different saved profiles. Next, let's look at the navigation settings. If you want to have auditory feedback for button selections, you can turn on Button Click Sound. Profile to go between the different. Next, you can choose to hide the back button in the top left of the screen since you have access to the Go Back button on every page in LAMP Words for Life. The next section is page size. If you don't want to have the iPad status information at the top of the screen, you can turn that off here. If you have a Versa wrap for your iPad, you're able to use PRC Saltillo keyguards to aid in access. If you install a keyguard, you will want to turn on Keyguard Inset to have the proper spacing on the page to line up with the keyguard. In the editing section, if you want to block access to the editing menu while on the iPad, you're able to use you can add a menu passcode. This will keep the vocabulary selection button and menu button visible, inset, but will require the passcode to access them. The next time you tap on menu, you will need to enter the passcode. If you forget the passcode, you can go into the iPad settings and scroll down on the left to find Words for Life. Then turn off menu passcode. Then go back into the LAMP Words for Life app, into Menu, Settings, and clear out the old passcode. Next, let's look at customizations you can make with the speech. When looking at the voice options, you will notice that some have a speaker icon next to them, and some have a speaker and a download icon next to them. The ones that only have the speaker next to it are currently downloaded on your app. You can preview them by tapping on the speaker next to the voice you want to listen to. If it is not currently downloaded, then tap on the download icon to download the voice. You must be connected to Wi-Fi to download the voices. Tap on the name of the voice to select it as your voice. You can adjust the rate of the speaking voice by sliding the bar left slower or right for faster. If you want to adjust the pitch of the voice, select Voice Pitch and then adjust it higher or lower to your liking. At the top of the voice menu, you will see Voice Languages. This is where you can choose to add other languages, and the available voices in that language will appear in the list. Choose Add Language to add another language option. Selecting Edit will allow you to drag the languages to reorder them in the list. Then you can select Save. Scroll through to see the different voice options in each language. At the bottom of the voice menu is the ability to choose a custom voice. ERC Saltillo works with the Voice Keeper, Vocal ID Voice, and Acapella My Own Voice to allow you to import customized voices into your LAMP Words for Life app. These require you to create an account with one of those companies and follow their process for creating a custom voice. If you are using the bilingual vocabulary file, you will need to select a voice for both the primary language and the secondary language. For example, the Spanish-English full vocabulary file, those companies want a Spanish voice for the primary voice, creating a custom voice. And then choose an English voice for the secondary language. Need to select a voice, you can adjust the rate and pitch for each of those voices as well. For example, the Spanish-English full vocabulary, those companies. By doing this, your words will now pronounce correctly in each language. For example, the last speech setting is Phone FaceTime Voice. This is a list of Apple voices that can be selected and used when you're using LAMP Words for Life on an iPad during FaceTime using our telephony feature. You can edit and customize the speech display bar in the following ways. If you're not speaking from the speech display bar, you may want to hide it, as the student's message doesn't need to be reread from there. On non-dedicated Words for Life devices, or if you own Words for Life on a separate iPad, you may want to be able to copy and paste your message from the speech display bar to put into another application, like an email or text message. If your client does not need this feature, you can turn that off to avoid accidentally having the menu pop up if they press and hold the speech display bar. Auto capitalization is helpful if you're working on proper sentence greeting for literacy skills. The next setting in the speech display bar section is for the font. You can change the font that is used for text in the speech display bar to one of these options. You can also change the background color to a high contrast option if that would benefit your AAC learners' vision needs. Number of lines of text is the next section. If you are creating longer sentences or multiple sentences, you will want to change it to have more than one line of text visible in the speech display bar. If you are using a key guard, you will want to use one or two lines so that it lines up with the key guard opening. The next thing you can customize for the speech display bar is having a visible cursor. When enabled, a cursor will appear in the speech display bar like a computer screen. If you want to be able to edit your message in the SDB by placing the cursor with your finger, you will want to enable Allow Place Cursor. If you make an error or need to add in a word, you can press and hold the SDB and then choose Place Cursor. Tap where you want the cursor to be placed. Next is Tap Action. The Tap Action setting designates what happens when you tap on the speech display bar. It can simply speak, or no action would turn off the action to speak from the speech display bar, and would require you to use the Speak All button on the keyboard page to speak your whole message. The final thing you can customize in the SDB is highlighting spoken word. With this enabled, you are able to have the words highlighted as it speaks from the speech display bar. You can have this turned off or select the color of the highlight. This can also be turned on for highlighting the text as it is spoken while using the telephony feature. It speaks from. In the Speak section, depending upon the needs of your student or client, you can choose what will be spoken when you are pressing buttons. While using the telephony Speak characters will have each letter name spoken on the keyboard page. In the Speak section, this can be helpful if you are working on letter names for literacy work. Speak Words will speak each button as you press it to form your message. For many individuals, this provides needed feedback about what they are pressing. If you prefer to have them hear the whole message and not each individual word, then only have Speak Sentences turned on. If they need the auditory feedback as they create their utterance, then have Speak Words and Speak Sentences on. Have them hear the individual word, then only. Next in the Speak section is Auto Clear. With Auto Clear off, you or the AAC user will need to clear the message in the speech display bar before starting your next message. To avoid having too much in the speech display bar, you can turn on Auto Clear. When set to Immediate, the speech display bar will be cleared as soon as the message is spoken. If the listener did not hear the message, the AAC user will need to formulate it again. When After Next Activation is set, text is cleared when you activate any button in your vocabulary after speaking. This allows the AAC user to repeat the message in the SDB if needed, and then start a new message when ready. Prevent interruption is helpful if you don't want to accidentally interrupt a message by tapping a new button. On the other hand, it can be helpful to have this turned off if you have a student who tends to fill up the SDB and then hits speak, and you want to be able to stop the message by pressing and holding the X delete button.
We've got a new recruit on the team.
Martin Kemp, new face to Sun Life.
All right. Data logging is a feature that syncs with Realize Language Service. Realize Language organizes and analyzes data logs from the AAC device for teams to use. Log in to your PRC Saltillo account and you can trial it for free for 30 days. Then it is a subscription of $9.95 a year. Turn on Enable Data Logging to start collecting the data. You will be asked to set up a privacy password since this is considered HIPAA. If needed, you can clear the log that has been tracked by pressing the Clear button here. Next, we will look at the button settings available in LAMP Words for Life. Activate on release is helpful if a client tends to accidentally select buttons due to poor motor control, resting their hand on the screen or dragging their finger across the screen to find the right button. When enabled, the button won't be activated until you lift your finger off the screen. To accidentally select buttons due to poor motor control. Dwell time is the next button setting. Once enabled, you will determine how long the individual will need to hold the button before releasing it to activate that button. This is also helpful for those that make accidental hits and can be used with or without the activate on release. Will need to hold Release time is a setting to help with preventing accidental double button presses or pressing the same button too many times. With or all without buttons on the page are disabled for a specified period of time after each button press. This prevents those accidental double button presses. Double button presses too many times. You may need to fade out this setting as your communicator starts combining words so that it doesn't impact their motor plan. Next in the button settings is Highlight Touch. This provides visual feedback with a slight gray overlay when a button as your communicator starts so that it doesn't impact the Highlight the blank touch. Button fill color allows you to choose a color for any blank button to be filled with. This can be helpful if your student benefits from having contrast between buttons that they select and the blank buttons. The button margin feature allows you to increase the space between buttons. This provides if the individual has motor needs that would benefit from any blank button. It can be adjusted from no space up to 100-point space. Head tracking is available on any iOS device with a front-facing TrueDepth camera. Enable head tracking will only appear in your settings if you have the TrueDepth camera on your device. To use head tracking, you will first turn on Enable Head Tracking. Tracking speed is how fast the cursor will move across the screen. You can use very slow, slow, normal, fast, or very fast. Cursor shape is what type of cursor will be displayed on the screen to indicate where your head is positioned. You can use no visible cursor, dot, crosshair, or arrow. Off-screen indicator tells you when you have moved your head too far and taken the cursor off the screen. You can set this to none, a dot, or a triangle. Here's an example of the off-screen indicator triangle. This is the crosshair cursor shape indicating where my head is tracking. The next head tracking setting is Trigger Action. Trigger Action is where you tell the app what will make the cursor select a button. Options for Trigger Action are hover, blink, mouth open, eyebrows up, tongue out, smile, or frown. If you select hover as your trigger action, then you will need to designate how long you need to hover over that button. Do this by pressing plus or minus for the hover time. If you choose one of the other trigger actions, you will be able to adjust the trigger sensitivity. This is the degree needed for the trigger movement to make the activation. You choose low, medium, or high. Rest area is an inactive area on the screen around where you made your last activation that allows you to rest before moving to your next button. You can adjust the size of the rest area if you want to use the button as a rest area and whether you want the rest area to be visible on the screen. Trigger indicator is the visual indication that you have activated a button. You can choose from none, a transparent dot, or a popping starburst. You can pause and resume head tracking from the bar at the top of the screen. The next setting that is in head tracking is highlight buttons. You can turn on highlight buttons so you can see an outline around the button that your head is tracking on. Cursor adjustment allows you to reset the cursor's center position back to the system defaults, or you can tell the device, this is the center of my face. This is helpful if your student or client is not going to be seated directly in front of the device, or if they maybe tend to look at it from the side or with their head down a little. Cursor smoothing allows for minor shakiness or tremors to reduce accidental button activation. You can use low to be more responsive to head movements, all the way up to high where it will appear very stable and less responsive to head movements. You can turn on Start Paused to allow head tracking to not activate buttons when you first open the app. You will select Resume when you are ready to start activating with head tracking. The next setting is social networking. If you use a non-dedicated device with LAMP Words for Life, you can choose if you want the ability to share text from the speech display bar to social networks. This allows you to share the message from your speech display bar to Twitter, Facebook, etc. when enabled by pressing and holding the SDB and selecting Share. You will need to have that social network set up on your iPad in order to use this setting. When a Bluetooth amplifier is going to be used, like with a VIA device or a Versa speaker, you will make the Bluetooth connection here. The next setting section is for switch scanning. With scanning enabled, you are able to connect one or two switches, whether through Bluetooth or a wired connection on the VIA devices. Configure switches allows you to set up one or two switches and then designate what each switch will do. Start the scan or activate the button. With auto scan, you can choose to have scanning activate automatically, or you can choose to either hold the switch or step to each location. When auto scan and auto restart are both enabled, a scan cycle restarts automatically after an activation. If your AAC user benefits from auditory prompts, you can enable the auditory scan setting. You can choose to have the auditory prompt played through a headphone if needed. Then you can select the prompt voice and customize the prompt voice's rate and pitch. If you want the scanning to skip scanning the speech display bar, you will want to turn this setting off. When Skip Empty Cells is turned on, a scan will skip an area that does not have a button or an area that a button has only included speech message action, but no text. When the setting is turned off, a scan will include empty button areas. You can set the scanning type to sequential or by row column. Sequential goes from left to right, beginning in the first row, while row column begins with the top row and moves down the screen. When a row is selected, then it moves from left to right across the row. Scan speed is only available when auto scan is turned on. It's the amount of time your device takes to move from one button, row, column to the next. Number of rescans is only available when auto scan is turned on. This sets the number of times the device scans the page automatically. It is only available to learn more about your LAMP Words for Life app. Visit our LAMP Words for Life website at LAMP.
Welcome back. Today we're exploring a powerful feature in the LAMP Words for Life app called Vocabulary Builder. Vocabulary Builder helps AAC users focus on a smaller set of words, making it easier to learn new vocabulary or target specific words during activities. Let's walk through how to set it up. From your vocabulary screen, choose the menu button in the top right corner. Select Vocab Builder. Use the toggle to turn it on. In the text area, type a word you want to include. When it appears in the list, select it to add it. For this example, we've added fast, go, help, me, more, slow, stop, and you. If you're planning to create multiple lists for different activities or communicators, you can select Save, give your list a name, and it'll be ready to use again later. If you're just creating a single list for now, you can skip the save step. Simply choose Done in the top right corner, and your list will be saved automatically. Now, take a look. Only the words you selected are visible. Everything else is hidden, so your communicator can focus on just those words.
Fast. Slow.
Want to go back to the full vocabulary? Just return to Vocab Builder and turn it off. Your custom list will still be there, ready for next time. If you found this tutorial helpful, give us a like and subscribe for more AAC.
Communication app has several robust vocabulary files that allow you to express yourself and say anything you want to say. But what happens when you don't know where a word is within your vocabulary? With Word Finder, you can search for any word and discover the pathway for how to get to that word within your vocabulary file. There are two ways to get to Word Finder within the LAMP Words for Life app. One way is through the Spelling and Numbers page. Once there, select Word Finder in the top row. You can then spell the word you want to find directly on the keyboard page. In this example, we will look for the word dog. Once you are done spelling your word, select Find next to the search bar. This will pull up a window with the icon sequence for the target word. Select the icon sequence to practice the motor pattern for that specific word. Select the highlighted icons to locate the word you are trying to find. All other icons in the vocabulary will be grayed out to draw attention to the pathway you selected. Continue to select the highlighted icons until you get to your chosen word. Once you have found and selected the word you are searching for, all icons in the vocabulary will be visible again. You can also use Word Finder as a form of vocabulary builder. Once you find the target word using Word Finder, have the AAC communicator practice the sequence for that word while all other words are hidden. This allows the device user to practice the target word once using the Guide Me feature. Another way to get to Word Finder within LAMP Words for Life is through the menu. To get to Word Finder this way, select Menu in the blue bar above the vocabulary, then select Word Finder. Let's find the word fast within our vocabulary. Select the search bar, which will bring up the keyboard. Type the word fast and select Find. Once again, select the icon sequence to practice the motor pattern and find the word. Now that you know how to use Word Finder, keep practicing and modeling to learn your vocabulary.
Hi there and welcome to our channel. Today we've got a quick tutorial for you to show you how to add the adverb page feature to your customized vocabulary file after updating your app. The adverb page feature makes adding verbs quick and easy. Just enter the root verb and the built-in dictionary fills in all the conjugations for you. Here are the steps. Open your customized file and go to Menu. Select Edit Page and go back to Menu. Select Import/Copy Pages. Choose Import Another Page. From the vocabulary options, select LAMP Words for Life English Full. In the search bar, search for template verb and select it. Select Import, then select Done. Go back to Menu and select Load Another Page. Search for template verb and select it. Then select Done. Go back to Menu and choose Edit Page Layout. Under Page Type, select Grammar Page. Then select Done. Select Save, then select Done. The adverb page feature is ready to use. Want to see this feature in action? Watch our adverb page how-to video to see how it works. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more AAC tips. See you next time.
So I hope all those videos have been really useful. I appreciate that it's been quite a long Skillshare. So thank you so much for participating. And I know that it's a lot of information, and don't feel that after this you should be able to use the LAMP app and be able to navigate through the different things. It's going to take a really long time, and that's okay. As the child that we're using it with is going to learn to use it, we are as well, and mistakes are okay. So just wanted to share some useful links. So definitely the LAMP website, there's lots on there, there's lots of resources, there's lots of packs as well that are, have activities of what you can do with your LAMP, which is amazing. And I'd really advise having a little look on the YouTube channel. So we've had a little look at some of the videos today that have been taken from the LAMP YouTube channel, but there's lots of things on there. And then I've just snipped this little bit from the end of the Liberator website. First of all, really nice quote: everyone has the desire and the ability to communicate despite physical and neurological challenges, which I think is something we really need to remember. And under the other links bit, there's some videos of a child using it over different weeks. There is a blog, and there's also a Facebook group, which I thought would be really helpful to join as parents. So take a little look at it. And thank you so much for attending, and you're welcome to email me at any time if there's anything further you wish to discuss. Have a lovely day.